Hi, it's Mark from MC Electrical, and today I'm going to tell you about two brand new panels on the market, the Canadian 465 watt panel and the Aiko 465 watt panel. So both panels are same power class, both 465 watts, and both of them sort of look the same kind of split cell architecture, but they're vastly different. I kind of think I'm not too convinced about this Aiko panel, so I've been testing it. We'll get onto that in a minute. But let me first tell you about this Canadian 465 watt panel. Now, we've been doing Canadian for a long time. I like Canadian as a panel. They're a budget panel made in China. You know, the company started up in Canada by a Chinese guy, so the Canadian name doesn't come from nowhere. We've always found them to be really good with warranties. They're really good with their manufacture. Not perfect, in fact, right in front of me here. About a month ago, we had our first issues that we saw down in the warehouse unpacking Canadian panels with bus bar issues, but it was a small issue from a small batch of panels. But generally speaking, a really good panel. The silicon works good. We always check panels as we unpack them here and pack them ready for a job, and always been happy with Canadian. Now, we were doing Canadian, or still are doing Canadian 440 watt panels, and now we've just stepped up to a 465 watt panel. Now, it's not just more efficient. They're not cramming more power into the same size. They've given us a little bit bigger, so the panel is around about 79 mil longer. So cut half of that cell off at the top, and you would have yourself, well, here it is over here, the Canadian 440 watt panel. I've just turned that around backwards. We'll get to that in a minute. So just a little bit taller than the 440 watt. So we are still doing the 440s partly for design reasons, and sometimes if we stack two panels on top of each other, they get too tall for the roof. So it's good to have a stubby little panel there for some jobs, and they're a little bit cheaper too. This 465 watt panel, now Canadian are using a TOPCon cell. TOPCon, big fancy name, it's just the way they make the silicon wafer. So they turn that wafer into a cell, and just the processes that they use, there's many different processes. It's an N-type cell with TOPCon, no big deal. Split cell panel, so they actually cut the standard solar cell in half. They're using a really big solar cell to do it. A couple of little things that are cool. I like little 1% gains, or this is probably more than 1%. The MC4 here, now the MC4 is, let's go over here. The leads on the back is how we plug one panel into the next panel with these leads, and those connections are called MC4s. And we always use a genuine MC4 from Stolby, and Stolby have upgraded their MC4 to an Evo 2 or Evolution 2 MC4. So this is an Evo 2 MC4, which I really like. This can potentially be a weak point on a solar system, and they've just made it a lot more durable. It can handle higher current. So I kind of like those little wins. You know, panels are getting better step by step in different ways. Now, the other thing that's really interesting about this is what they're doing, it seems particularly with TOPCon panels, is they're doing glass. So what we have with a traditional solar panel is we've got glass on the front, and then inside sandwiched is all of our cells. And then we have this back sheet, or this white plastic sheet, you know, that sits on the back of it to protect the cells. Now, the problem with having white plastic, and the reason I've turned this one around, is if you see up here, we've damaged this when taking it off the truck or trying to get it to the roof, and we've damaged that plastic. Of course, we're not going to install that, so my guys just brought it back to the warehouse, and it's just a damaged panel, fine for camping or something like that. What they've done here with this new Canadian panel is they've gone glass. So instead of having 3.2 millimeters of glass and then a plastic back sheet, they've done 1.6 millimeters of glass, and then the cells in between, and then another 1.6 millimeter of glass. So it's sort of hard to tell, but if you look on the back, it's a little bit more shiny on the back, a little bit more glossy, and if you look closely, you can notice there's glass on the back as well. It's not just more durable from scratches, but it's going to encapsulate those cells and not let moisture get in as easily, apparently. We'll see how that goes. I've held off from glass, but it's a fairly common thing in the industry now, and I'm kind of liking it. Yeah, that's pretty much everything to say about 465 watt panel. Really good panel. Oh no, what I should say is this power class thing is going crazy. So 465, a year ago, we were doing maybe 415 watt panels, and I've still got some sitting up here to do on some old jobs that have been put off. And down the back there from maybe 2 years ago, we were doing 390 watt panels. When I started in the industry back in 2009, I was doing 160 watt panels. We've added 305 watt. That's almost 3 times the amount of power in this compared to the panels that I was installing when I first started out in solar. So panels are getting way more efficient. They're getting taller too, you know. You have to really be a man to carry this to the roof. You're a strong fella or a strong lass. Hard work, but they're getting better. The technology is getting better, and particularly the price. So the price has dropped just crazy since the early days, where this panel would have cost $1,000 or something. The panels, just in the last 2 years, I would say, since we were doing those 390s, this is just roughly, they've dropped around about in half, or maybe even more than half the price of what they were 2 years ago. And in my opinion, well, I think it's fairly obvious the technology is getting better and better and better. And the Chinese are getting really good at making a quality panel at a really affordable price. Now let's move on to this new panel, Aiko. It's been all the hype of the industry. I can't believe how many guys have said to me, Mark, have you checked out the new Aiko panel? It's got all these weird features. The panel's only been in the market in Australia, I think, available for sale this year, 2024. I think they came into Australia in 2023 sometime. So brand new panel to Australia. But not only that, it's a brand new panel to the world. Aiko's only been making solar panels for 2 or 3 years or whatever it might be. But they tell me they've been in the solar industry since the 90s, something like 25 years or something like that, you know, doing the back end things behind solar. So they really are heavily focused on solar technologies, parts of a solar panel, all that kind of jazz. I won't go into it. I don't know too much about it, to be honest. So brand new panel to the market, kind of interesting. Hopefully they're going to stay around. But what really interested me, and probably why a lot of my mates in the industry called me up, is they know that I love doing testing on shading. And I've done a lot of testing with using microinverters against the Fronius string inverter and Fronius versus other string inverters, and seeing what works better, trying to understand how the bypass diodes in the back of these panels are working and how they interact with shade, and understanding this split cell technology, which works better in the shade. I've done a lot of videos about that. What they're telling me here kind of feels, especially at first, sounded like a little bit like black magic. I don't believe it. It's witchcraft or something, because they're telling me that if I shade this panel, let's say a tree is shading this much, and I shade this panel as well, not even on a microinverter system, which does matter, just on a string system, that we're going to lose more on this. This will be more efficient in the shade. That sounds like complete rubbish to me. But I was talking to my mate in the industry, Thomas Bywater, who now is a manager for Aiko Australia, and he kind of explained to me roughly how it works. I still need to get my head around it. But basically, this is a SunPower cell, but they're using the same kind of idea with putting the contacts on the back of the cell with Aiko instead of having our bus bars on the front. And because they've done that, the difference between positive and negative isn't front to back, it's just microns, it's just here to here. And that resistance is somehow increasing or allowing current to flow in a different path. So that shade, when there's shade there, it's not heating up as much, and the current will find a different path, and somehow, magically, the panel outperforms our Canadian or our typical split cell solar panel. I'm still skeptical. I've made a few bets with people. I'm not 100% that I'm going to win those bets, but I've put 10 panels up on the roof now of the Aiko. Tomorrow we're going to put 10 Canadians on the roof. We're going to run them both into a 10 kilowatt Fronius inverter that I've got up there, at one tracker versus the other tracker. So we've got the same inverter, complete same setup, and we'll shade them with core flute, and we'll see how we go. So if you want to follow that test, or I've got a bunch of other tests going up there with REC and things like that. If you want to follow that test, follow me, subscribe to this channel. And if you've liked this video, give me a thumbs up too. Thanks for watching.